The blood in the snow was still warm. Cole Manning crouched beside the dark stain, his fingers hovering inches from the crimson drops scattered across white powder. Fresh, maybe an hour old. He followed the trail with his eyes. It led straight toward his cabin, weaving between pine trunks in an unsteady line. His colt cleared leather before he straightened. The tracks told a story. 5 sets of prints, all women's feet from the sides moving slow. One dragging. Blood every few yards where someone had stopped to rest. Cole's jaw tightened. In 6 years alone on this mountain, the only visitors had been lost prospectors and the occasional bear. Now someone was bleeding their way to his door. He moved through the trees, rifle ready. The wind carried voices, low, urgent speaking Apache. Cole's throat constricted. He knew that language, knew what it meant to find Apache women this far north alone, leaving blood trails in the snow. At the edge of his clearing, he stopped. 5 women huddled against his cabin wall. Their dresses hung in shreds, buckskin torn and stained. The youngest couldn't be more than 16, swaying on her feet like a sapling in wind. An older woman pressed cloth to a gash on another's arm. They hadn't seen him yet. The woman in front turned. Her eyes found his across 30 yards of snow and locked. No fear, no pleading, just exhaustion so deep it had weight. "Please," she said in English, clear, desperate. "They're coming." Cole scanned the tree line behind them. Nothing moved, but that meant nothing. Whoever had done this, left rope burns on their wrists, torn their clothes, spilled their blood. Might be hours behind, or minutes. The smart move was obvious. Point them toward town. Give them jerky for the trail. Keep his mountain quiet and his conscience clean. The youngest girl collapsed. She hit the snow hard, her body folding like paper. The others moved to help her, but their leader's eyes never left Cole's face. She wasn't asking anymore. She was waiting for judgment. Cole holstered his weapon and opened his gate. "Inside. Now." They filed through his door in seconds. The leader came last, her hand trailing along the doorframe, like she was memorizing the texture. When Cole barred the door behind them, she finally let her shoulders drop. "How long since you've eaten?" he asked. 3 days. Cole ladled stew into bowls, his hands moving automatically while his mind worked. 5 Apache women brutalized running. Winter storm building. Nearest law 15 miles down a mountain trail that would be impassable by morning. He handed the first bowl to the collapsed girl. She drank the broth like medicine, eyes closed, shaking. "Who's following you?" Cole asked. The leader, Ayanna she called herself, met his gaze. "Men who think Apache women have no right to say no." Outside, the wind picked up. Snow began hitting the windows in angry bursts. Whatever was coming, storm or pursuit, they were committed now. For better or worse, Cole Manning was no longer alone on his mountain. The fire crackled between them, and somewhere in its flames, Cole saw his quiet life burning. The storm hit 2 hours after dark. Cole woke to wind hammering his cabin walls like fists. Snow drove horizontal past the windows, erasing the world beyond the glass. He'd built this place to weather mountain fury, but tonight the logs groaned under assault. Beside the dying fire, the 5 women slept in a tight circle. Ayanna kept one hand on the knife at her belt, even unconscious. The youngest, Nayeli Cole had learned, curled against an older woman's back for warmth. Their breathing steamed in air grown cold despite the banked coals. Cole added wood quietly. Flames licked higher, casting shadows that danced across weathered faces. These weren't reservation women soft from government handouts. These were survivors, lean and hard as winter itself. "You don't sleep much." Ayanna's voice made him turn. She sat up slowly, blanket pulled around her waist. Her torn dress gaped at the shoulder, revealing a lattice of old scars across dark skin. "Storm like this, nobody sleeps," Cole said. She studied him in the firelight. "You know our language?" "Some. More than some." Her eyes narrowed. "You were military. Translator." Cole's hand stilled on the poker. "Long time ago." "Not long enough." Ayanna shifted, and Cole caught the silver gleam of an old bullet scar below her collarbone. "Which campaigns?" "Does it matter?" She smiled without warmth. "Depends if you helped burn my village." The silence stretched between them like a blade. Cole had translated orders for a dozen raids, watched cavalry charge into camps full of women and children. He told himself he was preventing bloodshed, building bridges. Now those bridges felt like they were made of bones. Canyon de Shelley, he said finally. Bosque Redondo. Others. Ayana nodded slowly. My husband died at Canyon de Shelley. Cole's chest constricted. I'm sorry. Are you... The question held no anger, just curiosity. Or are you sorry, I know? Before Cole could answer, one of the other women stirred. Istas, the eldest, sat up with joints that creaked like old leather. She spoke rapid Apache to Ayana, gesturing toward the door. What is it? Cole asked. The horses, Ayana translated. She hears them. Cole grabbed his rifle and crept to the window. Through driving snow, he made out dark shapes moving beyond the tree line. Riders, 4, maybe 5, hunched against the storm, but still coming. Get them up, he said. Back room, now. Ayana shook her sisters awake. They moved like smoke, gathering their few possessions, melting into the cabin's rear chamber. Cole barred the door behind them, then settled beside the front window with his Winchester across his knees. The riders reached his clearing as wind howled like dying animals. Their leader dismounted, a big man in a buffalo coat, and pounded on Cole's door with his rifle butt. Open up, we're tracking stolen property. Cole cracked the door, keeping the chain latched. Storm's getting worse. Best head back to town. The man tried to peer past him. We got reports of Apache women hiding up here. Escape was from a work detail down south. Haven't seen any Apache. Cole's voice stayed level. Just me in the mountains. Buffalo coat spat tobacco juice that steamed in the cold. You wouldn't lie to lawmen, would you? You wearing badges. The man's eyes went flat. Don't need badges to collect runaways. These women belong to the Garrison Mining Company. Signed contracts. Cole knew about those contracts. Apache women sold into service, supposedly voluntary, actually slavery with legal paperwork. He'd seen the bruises such arrangements left behind. Like I said, haven't seen anyone. Buffalo coat shouldered against the door, testing the chain. Mind if we look around just to be sure? I mind. For a heartbeat, violence crackled between them like lightning. Then another gust of wind staggered the riders, and Buffalo coat stepped back. Storm won't last forever, he said. We'll be back when it clears. They rode into the white fury, vanishing like ghosts. Cole waited 10 minutes before unbarring the backroom door. The women emerged slowly. Niley's eyes were wide with terror, but Ayana's face showed only calculation. How long until they return? She asked. Day or two. Depends on the snow. Istas spoke in Apache. Ayana shook her head, replying sharp and quick. An argument followed, voices rising despite the need for quiet. What's the discussion? Cole asked. She says we should run tonight. Use the storm for cover. Ayana's jaw was set. I say we die in this weather. She's right about running, Cole said. But not tonight. Morning, maybe. If the wind dies. And if it doesn't. Cole looked at each woman in turn. Scared faces, tired eyes, bodies marked by violence and hard travel. They'd come to his mountain broken, seeking nothing but a single night's shelter. Now they were trapped between pursuers and the storm, with only him standing between them and capture. He'd spent 6 years avoiding exactly this situation. 6 years keeping his head down, his conscience, quiet, his mountain clean of complications. But looking at these women, seeing the rope burns on their wrists, the fear they tried to hide, Cole felt something shift inside his chest. Not desire, though Ayana's beauty stirred him despite everything. Not pity, which these proud women would reject. Something older, deeper. The same feeling that had made him walk away from the army when he could no longer stomach translating orders to burn villages. Then we make our stand here, he said. Ayana's eyes searched his face. Why? Because running's not living, and I'm tired of watching good people get swallowed by bad ones. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, beside the fire that had become their shared hearth, something took root between strangers who were becoming something else, something worth fighting for. Dawn came gray and still. The wind had died some time before first light, leaving the world wrapped in pristine silence. 3 feet of fresh snow buried the clearing, erasing all tracks except those leading to Cole's door. He stood at the window with coffee steaming in his hands, watching the tree line. No movement, but that meant nothing. Patient hunters waited for their prey to reveal itself. Behind him, the women worked with quiet efficiency. Istas tended Nayeli's fever. The girl had developed a cough during the night, her breath rattling in her chest. Ayana and the others, Tiponi and Cece, moved around the cabin like they belonged there, banking the fire, preparing food, checking weapons with the casual competence of survivors. "You have ammunition?" Ayana asked, testing the action on an old Spencer rifle Cole had retrieved from his storage chest. "Enough." Cole handed her a box of cartridges. "You know how to use that? My husband taught me before the soldiers killed him." Their eyes met. No accusation in her voice now, just statement of fact. Cole nodded and turned back to his watch. The attack came at mid-morning. A single rider emerged from the trees, hands raised, buffalo coat open to show no weapons. The same man from the night before. But Cole could see others moving in the shadows, behind him, flanking positions among the pines. "Manning," the man called. "Let's talk like civilized folk." Cole cracked the door. "I'm listening." "We tracked those women here. Found blood sign footprints. They're inside your cabin and we mean to have them back. Like I told you before." "Cut the horse shit." Buffalo Coat's facade dropped. "You got 5 Apache whores in there, and they belong to us. Send them out peaceful and you can keep breathing." Cole's grip tightened on his rifle. "And if I don't, then we burn you out. Your choice." The man's eyes held the flat certainty of someone who'd done this before. Cole counted muzzle flashes in the trees. 7 men, maybe 8. Good positions, patient shooters. They'd done this before too. "Give me 10 minutes to think it over," Cole said. 5. Cole closed the door and turned to find Ayana beside him, the Spencer cradled in her arms like she'd been born to it. "How many?" she asked. "Too many for a frontal fight." "Then we don't fight frontal." She moved to the back window, studying the terrain. "There's a game trail behind your cabin. Leads up to the rocks. You're not running." "No." Her smile was sharp as broken glass. "We're hunting." Cole felt his world shift again. These weren't helpless refugees anymore. They were warriors and they were choosing to stand beside him. Ista spoke quietly to the others. They nodded, faces set with determination. Even Nayeli, fever bright but steady, checked the loads in Cole's spare revolver. "What did she say?" Cole asked. "That we have nothing left to lose," Ayana translated, "and everything to gain." The plan was simple, desperate, and probably suicidal. Cole would create a distraction at the front door. The women would slip out the back circle through the rocks and hit the hunters from behind. Classic pincer movement, the kind Cole had seen work in the war. The kind that got everyone killed if it went wrong. "You sure about this?" he asked Ayana as they prepared to separate. She touched his face with fingers cold from handling steel. "You could have sent us away. Could have told them we were here. Could have saved yourself." "Could have. Why didn't you?" Cole thought about his years on this mountain, the silence that had been sanctuary and prison both. About villages, burned families, scattered, the weight of words he translated that led to graves. About the rope burns on their wrists and the fear they tried to hide. "Because some things are worth the fight." Ayana kissed him, then quick and fierce tasting of coffee and determination. "Don't die, Cole Manning." "You either." She slipped out the back with her sisters moving like shadows across white ground. Cole waited until they vanished into the rocks, then opened his front door. Buffalo Coat had moved closer, rifle ready. "Time's up, Manning." "You're right," Cole said. "It is." He put his first shot through the man's chest. The world exploded into gunfire and screaming. Cole threw himself aside as bullets chewed splinters from his doorframe. From the rocks above, the women's rifles began speaking their shots, precise and deadly. The hunters found themselves caught between hammer and anvil, exactly as planned. But there were more of them than Cole had counted, and they were better than he'd hoped. A bullet creased his shoulder, spinning him against the door. Another shattered the window beside his head. He fired back, working the lever on his Winchester like a machine, but the hunters were finding cover, regrouping. From the rocks, he heard Ayana's voice raised in an Apache war cry, wild and haunting. The sound sent ice through Cole's veins, but it sent something else through the hunters. Fear. They'd come expecting to collect helpless women, not fight seasoned warriors. The battle raged across his peaceful clearing, muzzle flashes blooming like deadly flowers in the morning light. And through it all, Cole felt something he hadn't experienced in 6 years of mountain solitude. He felt alive. The silence after gunfire always felt wrong. Cole pressed his back against the cabin wall. Ears ringing, blood seeping through his shirt from the bullet graze. Smoke drifted across the clearing where 3 men lay still in trampled snow. The others had pulled back into the trees, but he could hear them calling to each other, regrouping. From the rocks above came a sound that made his blood freeze. Niley's voice high and sharp with pain. Ayanna! The cry echoed off stone and pine. Cole broke cover, sprinting toward the game trail. Bullets whined past his head, but desperation made him fast. He found them in a hollow between boulders. Ayanna kneeling beside Nayeli, her hands red with blood. How bad, he gasped. Bad enough. Ayanna's voice stayed steady, but her eyes held depths of fear. Bullet caught her in the side. She's bleeding inside. Nayeli's face was gray as winter sky, her breathing shallow and quick. The youngest of them, barely more than a child, and now... We need to get her to a doctor, Cole said. Nearest doctor's in town, 15 miles through snow. Ista spoke for the first time in English, her accent thick but clear. She won't make half that distance. From below came the sound of men moving, branches breaking. The hunters were advancing, emboldened by their small victory. They're coming, Ceci whispered, reloading her rifle with shaking hands. Cole looked around the rocky hollow. Good defensive position, but limited escape routes. They could hold for a while, maybe pick off another hunter or two. But eventually ammunition would run low, and then... There's something else, Ayanna said quietly. Something you need to know. She pulled a folded paper from her dress, stained with blood but still readable. Cole recognized the letterhead immediately. Territorial Government Official Seal. Land grant, Ayanna said. My husband's name passed to me when he died. 800 acres in the valley below your mountain. Cole stared at the document. This is legal title. You own that land. Owned. Past tense. Her smile was bitter. The mining company wanted it. When I wouldn't sell, they had me declared mentally incompetent. Apache woman, no male guardian, clearly couldn't manage property. The territorial judge agreed. The full picture clicked into place. This wasn't about escaped workers or broken contracts. This was about land-valuable mining claims and getting inconvenient owners out of the way. So they arranged for you to disappear, along with anyone who might ask questions later. Ayanna folded the paper carefully. My sisters and I were witnesses to the fraud. Dead witnesses don't testify. A bullet spanged off rock near Cole's head. The hunters were getting closer, moving from tree to tree, tightening their circle. Manning! Buffalo Coat's voice carried clearly across the clearing. He'd survived Cole's shot, wounded but mobile. You're surrounded. Send out the women and we'll let you live. Cole chambered a fresh round. Counter offer, you ride away now and I won't hang your scalp from my porch. Rough laughter echoed from the trees. Tough talk from a dead man. We can't win this, Tiponi said. She'd taken a bullet through her left arm but still held her rifle steady. Too many of them, too few of us. Cole looked at each woman in turn. Ista's dignity unbroken despite everything. Ceci tears on her cheeks but fire in her eyes. Tiponi wounded but unbroken. Nayeli dying by inches in the snow. And Ayanna, the heart of them all, watching him with something that might have been love if they'd had time to find out. 6 years on this mountain he'd been running from choices like this. Running from the weight of other people's lives, from the responsibility that came with caring about something beyond your own survival. But you couldn't run forever. Eventually you had to plant your feet and decide what you were willing to die for. No, he said, we can't win a straight fight. Cole pulled out his skinning knife and began cutting strips from his spare shirt. But we're not fighting straight. He outlined his plan quickly, quietly. It was insane. It required precise timing, desperate courage, and luck they probably didn't have. But it was their only chance. The women listened without argument. They'd already proven they were warriors. Now they had to become something more. Ghosts. You sure this will work? Ayanna asked as they prepared to separate again. No, Cole admitted. But it's what we've got. She kissed him again, longer this time, like she was trying to memorize the taste. When they broke apart, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. If we don't make it, we will. If we don't, she continued, know that you gave us something precious. You gave us choice. The right to stand and fight instead of running or surrendering. Cole touched her face, thumb tracing the line of her cheekbone. You gave me something too. You brought me back to life. Around them, the circle of hunters drew tighter. Time was running out and death was closing in. But for the first time in 6 years, Cole Manning felt like he was exactly where he belonged. The war cry that rose from the rocks a moment later wasn't surrender. It was defiance, pure and fierce, echoing across the mountain like a promise. They would not go gentle into that dark. The fire started in the cabin's southeast corner. Cole touched his torch to oil-soaked rags, watching flames leap hungrily up the log walls. Smoke poured through the chinking, thick and black, visible for miles. Behind him, gunfire crackled as the women kept the hunters pinned down with carefully aimed shots. This was the gamble. Everything depended on timing, on desperation, and on men making the assumptions desperate men always made. There, Buffalo Coat's voice carried clearly across the clearing. The bastards burning the evidence. Move in now before they all burn up. Just as Cole had hoped, the hunters broke cover, charging across open snow toward the cabin. They thought Cole was destroying the women rather than let them be recaptured. They thought wrong. The women weren't in the cabin anymore. Cole slipped out the back door as the first hunter reached the front porch. In the rocks above, Ayanna and her sisters waited with their rifles invisible against stone and shadow. The hunters burst through Cole's front door into an empty burning room. That's when the real killing started. Muzzle flashes bloomed from the high rocks like deadly stars. The hunters, caught in the open, silhouetted against flames, dropped one by one. They tried to retreat, but Cole was behind them now, his Winchester speaking methodically from the tree line. Buffalo Coat made it halfway to cover before Ayanna's bullet took him through the spine. The fight lasted 3 minutes. When the smoke cleared, 7 men lay dead in Cole's yard, their blood turning pink in the trampled snow. The cabin burned like a funeral pyre, 40 years of solitary life going up in flames. Cole felt no grief watching it burn, only relief. "Nayeli's still breathing," Istus called from the rocks. "But barely." They carried the girl down from the hollow, her face gray as ash, her pulse thread-like beneath cold skin. Cole rigged a travois from pine branches and buffalo robes, padding it as best he could for the journey to town. "She needs a doctor," Ayanna said. "Real medicine." "I know." Cole checked the traces one more time. "We'll make it." "Nah, all of us." He looked at the 4 women who'd fought beside him, who'd chosen to stay when running would have been safer. "All of us." The ride down the mountain took 6 hours through knee-deep snow. They took turns breaking trails, spelling each other when exhaustion hit. Nayeli drifted in and out of consciousness, mumbling fevered words in Apache. But she held on. The doctor in Cedar Falls was drunk when they arrived, but he was still a doctor. He took one look at Nayeli and sobered fast, clearing his surgery table. Boiling instruments, shouting orders. "Get me clean water and more light. This girl's lost half her blood." The operation lasted until past midnight. Cole paced the waiting room, while the women sat in stoic silence, hands folded, faces, masks of controlled fear. When the doctor finally emerged, his sleeves were bloody to the elbows. "She'll live," he said simply. "Young and strong. Lucky." Istus spoke quietly in Apache. The others joined her voices, rising and falling in what sounded like prayer or thanksgiving. "Now what?" the doctor asked Cole. "Sheriff's already been asking questions. 7 dead men make folks curious." Cole pulled out the land grant, smoothed the blood-stained paper on the doctor's desk. "These women are landowners, legal title to 800 acres of valley land. They were attacked while defending their property." The doctor squinted at the document, then at Cole. "You sure that's how it happened?" "That's exactly how it happened." 3 days later, the territorial judge ruled it justifiable homicide, self-defense on their own land. The mining company's fraudulent claim was voided, their hired guns branded as claim jumpers and murderers. Justice was swift when the paperwork was in order. Ayanna found Cole on the hotel porch that evening, watching sunset paint the peaks red and gold. His mountain looked different from down here. Smaller, more ordinary. "Regretting it?" she asked. "The cabin." "No." Cole slipped his arm around her waist, drew her close. "It was just wood and chinked clay. This is what matters." He gestured toward the hotel window where her sister sat with Nayeli, the girl finally alert and eating solid food. They'd become family through shared fire bonds stronger than blood. So what happens now? Ayana asked. Cole had been thinking about that question for 3 days. The old life was gone, burned away with his cabin. The new one was still taking shape, still fragile as a spring ice. We go back up the mountain, build something better this time, big enough for all of us. He looked at her sideways. If you want. I want. Her smile held sunlight. But not as your guest, not as someone you saved. As what then? As your partner, your equal, your wife if you're brave enough. Cole turned to face her, fully taking her hands in his. They were calloused from rifle work, scarred from surviving, beautiful in their strength. Ayana of the Valley people, will you marry me? Cole Manning of no people in particular, I will. They married that Sunday in the hotel parlor with Nayeli as witness, despite the doctor's protest that she should stay in bed. The bride wore a new dress, sky blue with silver thread bought with gold from the mining company's abandoned equipment. The groom wore his best shirt and the smile that had been hiding on his face for 6 years. The wedding feast was simple. Venison stew, cornbread coffee, strong enough to float a horseshoe. But it tasted like celebration, like new beginnings, like home. By summer, they'd built the new house. Bigger than the old cabin with separate rooms for each of the women and proper kitchen windows that faced all 4 directions. The land grant had been officially transferred, making them all legal owners of the valley where wildflowers bloomed between the pines. Nayeli recovered completely, her laughter echoing off the peaks as she chased butterflies through mountain meadows. Ista started a garden coaxing vegetables from rocky soil with patience and water from the creek. Tiponi and Cece took over the livestock building, a herd from strays and trades. And Ayana, round with child by autumn, stood on the porch each evening, watching the sunset paint their mountain gold. Cole found her there one night, her hands resting on the curve of her belly, her face peaceful in the fading light. Any regrets? He asked. Only one, she said, that it took us so long to find each other. The baby kicked and Ayana laughed, the sound carrying across valleys where they'd spilled blood, shed tears, and finally planted roots deep enough to weather any storm. On this mountain that had once been his prison, Cole Manning had found his home. Not in solitude, but in family. Not in silence, but in the voices of women who'd chosen to stay, when staying was dangerous to fight, when fighting was hopeless to love, when love required courage. The wind sang through the pines, carrying the scent of snow from distant peaks. Winter would come again as it always did, but they would meet it together, and together they would endure. Some battles you won with bullets, others you won by choosing to stay, to build, to plant something lasting in ground that had known too much blood. This was that kind of victory, the kind that grew stronger with time, deeper with seasons, until it became the thing that defined you. Home.